Hi there, Scott, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review. Yep, I took one for the team. We're going to talk about 2017's The Mummy. Since I started podcasting, I wanted to review this movie. I've never seen it. I was excited about it when it was coming out. Yes, I'm talking about the Tom Cruise misfire, The Mummy from 2017. I say misfire because it's widely considered to be bad. When I was doing a little research before doing this podcast, there was an article in Yahoo back in October when they got, I guess they asked Brendan Fraser what he thought about this movie. Brendan Fraser, who starred in the original, well, the more recent Mummy trilogy, not going back to the original Universal Monsters. But anyway, he said it wasn't very fun. Anyway, this was on Yahoo, and they called it a disaster. Now, it had a budget somewhere between $125 and $195 million. On top of that, marketing costs. It went on to make $410 million. At the very least, it broke even to a certain extent. I wouldn't call that a disaster. Critics, they didn't really like it. It's sitting at about 5.4 on IMDb, about 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 2 out of 5 on Letterboxd, but 71% of Google users like the movie. So I'd never seen it, to be honest with you. I just thought Tom Cruise in a horror movie was probably a bad idea in the first place. But, you know, I like a lot of his movies. Say what you will about him in his personal life. He makes some pretty entertaining movies, and Top Gun Maverick is going to end this year as the most popular movie of the year at $1 billion. So he doesn't have very many misfires on his resume. A lot of his movies don't do hugely. They make a lot of money in their opening weekends, and they do quite well. They make their money back, and his investors are quite happy. And some of them are pretty big hits, but he hasn't knocked one out of the park in a while, and Top Gun Maverick did that. Well, The Mummy basically killed off the plans that Universal had to make a dark universe mythology, if you will. They had made Dracula Untold, which, not a terrible movie. It's just kind of a misfire in its own, but it ends in modern times. It could easily tie into this, and it was supposed to. And then you have Tom Cruise starring in this supernatural action adventure, which some of the things that surprised me about the movie, special effects are fantastic. The stunts are fantastic. Some of the horror elements, incredibly well done. The designs, the creatures, the zombie mummies that she controls, very well done. Some of the creepiness of it, some of it, all right, there were 3 very different screenwriters worked on this movie. Obviously, the Christopher McQuarrie stuff feels like the Tom Cruise stuff because Christopher McQuarrie has been working with him on, well, all of Tom Cruise's recent movies. Alex Kurtzman directed this. You know him from Star Trek stuff. He worked with all sorts of people who have worked in Star Trek, in Universal, in science fiction on this. There were hundreds of very talented people involved in making this movie. So how did it misfire? Watching it tonight with zero expectations. I've heard for, 5 years that this is a bad movie. It's been called a quote-unquote disaster. Why did I get a copy of it? Well, Black Friday, $5.99. Wanted to try out the 4K. I said, how bad could it be? It's got Sophia Boutella in it, Tom Cruise, Annabelle Wallis. She's not hard to look at and a good actress. Jake Johnson's pretty good. Courtney B. Vance, I like him. I like Alex Kurtzman. I like the people who made this movie. I've always wanted to see it. So, yeah, it was a Black Friday $5.99 purchase, free shipping. Why not? Well, I got to say, the surround sound was quite good. It's got Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, good picture. Like I said, really great special effects. A lot of over-the-top set pieces. So going back to the why did it misfire, I think it's trying to be too many things. People were going in expecting a Mummy movie, and you get much, much more than that. It wasn't the Brendan Fraser movies, and I'm sorry, as much as I love the first two Mummy movies, the third one was pretty terrible, even with the addition of Jet Li. And in retrospect, they're fun, but they're still not what I wanted out of Mummy movies, because I like the old Universal movies. I recently watched Dracula and really enjoyed it. I'm about to sit down and watch Frankenstein and Wolfman, get into some of these other old Universal movies. So I've always been interested in the idea that they were going to reboot this series. Another thing that I think they misfire a little bit is the whole Jekyll Hyde thing. Oh, spoilers. Sorry. Movie's been out there for 5 years. I haven't watched it yet. To talk about it, we're going to have to get into a little bit of spoilers stuff. This is all, it's narrated by Russell Crowe. So obviously from the get-go, we know his character is a bigger deal than he's not even on the poster. You know, and Russell Crowe didn't really know he's in a few of the scenes in the trailer, but well, it turns out he runs an organization, and they only touch on it. They were going to get into it in further movies. Jenny, the Annabelle Wallis character, obviously is connected and working for them, kind of. They know who Tom Cruise is. His character, Nick Morton, he's kind of working. He's ex-military, but he works for the military, and he's supposed to be helping, but what he's really doing is ripping off antiquities. They're pretty aware of what he's doing, but they're still using him. This is where some of the Tom Cruise probably wasn't the right guy to play this, but having him in the movie got it to the level it got to. So it's hard to say what it would have been like without him. We wouldn't have had the set pieces we had. Some of the action that we had, just wouldn't have had it. If it had been anybody else, nobody else could have done it, pulled it off, brought the stunt teams in to do it. They wouldn't have. They wouldn't have gone to the levels of leveling buildings and having him roll off the roof and that kind of thing. If it wasn't Tom Cruise, if it was somebody else. Not even Ryan Reynolds would have probably raked, the type of production that this. I mean, there's some impressive set pieces. All in all, for an hour and 50-minute movie, I was thoroughly entertained. It's not a terrible movie. It is not what I wanted. It's not what you want out of a Mummy movie or a Dark Universe movie. But they do a lot of things right. I mean, Sofia Boutella's great as the Mummy. What little she does in the movie is fantastic. There's a little bit too much CG. They had to CG every single rat and even one of the guys' makeup. It's kind of CG where they just could have used makeup. I don't know, maybe it was easier. There's 100 things they got right and quite a few things they got wrong. And then the mixture of the two, it just didn't, sometimes that's a wash. Sometimes the set pieces and stuff elevate a movie enough that the audience will deal with some of the side plots that don't work, or the characters that don't work, or the action that doesn't work, when the whole of the movie was entertaining. Unfortunately, this one didn't rise above its problems to achieve that level. Again, it made $410 million. That's no small feat. Not every Tom Cruise movie makes that much money. So there was an audience that wanted to see him in this kind of movie. I just don't think they made the kind of movie that the audience was hoping for. We got a Tom Cruise movie. He's definitely Tom Cruise in the film. He definitely, like I said, jumps off buildings and has a big running scene. Him and Annabelle, running through a building that's blowing up, kind of stuff that you expect those kind of things in the movie. What I didn't expect was some of the horror beats that were very well done. How great Sofia Boutella was in the role. How her motion capture, they obviously used her for some of the CG versions of the Mummy before she's fully fleshed out. That was all really well done. Like I said, they do use CGI way too much, but most of it is incredibly well done. They spent a lot of money finishing the effects. The movie looks finished. It doesn't feel rough. It feels like a cinematic ride. It just kind of falls flat, even though it shouldn't have. I'll get into the end, which is obviously spoiler talk. Not that I haven't spoiled a couple things, but these were all things you learned very early in the movie. I haven't really given anything away of the overall plot. I think the movie doesn't give us enough Mummy in the Mummy movie. And it ends with a different character winding up being, quote unquote, the Mummy with the curse. And that's kind of what happens in the original Universal movie, kind of. But it's not what we expected. It's not handled as we expect. And I'm fine with movies defying expectations, but at some point you have to entertain as well. I think they had some really great ideas. I think they shoved too many of them into this one movie. So we start off with learning about what Tom Cruise's character does, and then he discovers, and we see the history of the Ahmet, Sofia Boutella's mummy character. We see a little bit of that history. He gets some visions as he's chosen, and we get some flashbacks, and we find out more about this dark universe and these monsters. It takes monsters to fight monsters kind of thing. This all build up, this first 30 minutes is all right, I'm totally in. We've had some big set pieces. We've got some pretty good horror stuff she looks pretty vicious and did some pretty rough things, and it's bloody, and for a PG-13 movie, I was like, all right, I'm in. Once it gets into Tom Cruise surviving the plane crash, which is something else you see in the trailer, and we get into introducing Russell Crowe's character, him battling with his psyche and his problems and all of that, it just started taking the movie out of the whole mummy thing. And whether or not Tom Cruise, his character, Nick, is going to be pulled into this group of people or going to be used by this group of people and killed by this group of people. I mean, what's going to happen here? It just kind of takes away from the whole horror aspect. And then when they go back to it, like when the mummy, when she's attacking people and sucking the life out of them and all that, it's all really well done. That part of it really works. If they had just kept to the mummy story and maybe tagged all this stuff on the end, some of the stuff they wanted to do in the other universe, but with 3 complete different screenwriters working from a story from other people, including the director, it just feels like they're trying to satisfy too many things. And a lot of this is retrospect. We know what they were trying to do, but it feels like they had this mummy story. And they also had the story of the Jekyll and Hyde character and the Dark Universe and the Prodigium and all this other stuff. And let's all shove it all together. And then let's throw some Tom Cruise action beats on top of it. So they had the idea of maybe doing kind of an Indiana Jones crossed with a horror movie kind of thing. And that's what they kind of came out with. It just didn't have enough horror to satisfy the mummy fans. It didn't have enough Indiana Jones to satisfy, anybody that would have been satisfied by that. It is interesting. Like I said, it's just not all fleshed out enough, I guess. It's like just some of the choices that were made were like, we're going to flesh this segment of this out, but not this whole thing. We're going to flesh this little I don't know. Maybe Kurtzman isn't the right guy to direct it. I think he's a fine creator, writer, producer, director of things. Maybe this wasn't the right mesh with him and Tom Cruise and the horror element and trying to build the unit. He's a smart guy. I'm not going to pick on him. I thought the movie, like I said, was well put together, a well put together piece of entertainment. It just didn't hit. It just didn't connect with everybody, but it was fine. I wouldn't call it a disaster. I wouldn't call it terrible. As I said recently in another movie that was not as good as this movie, I have watched far worse things on Netflix and don't know why the hate for this. Well, it's Tom Cruise and he didn't knock it out of the park. So that gives everybody a chance to beat it up and basically ended the chances we were going to get a multi-dark universe thing that was actually reawakened by the hit that Invisible Man was, which was a great movie that I reviewed. I need to rewatch that, by the way. It's a good flick. So they're going to try and work that into a new kind of dark universe thing, but maybe not. As we've learned from Marvel and DC, maybe just make great movies. I don't think this was Mummy enough, and that's why it wasn't a big hit, because we've got plenty of Tom Cruise action movies. We don't have any Tom Cruise horror movies, and a few other actors like Vin Diesel and others have tried to make these kind of vampire or mummy or horror flicks that have action in them. It'd be nice if somebody nailed it. Remember that I, Frankenstein from a few years ago? Yeah, they tried to do the Underworld thing with that. I do enjoy the Underworld movies. This is a misfire. It's all you could say. But if you've not seen it, it's not terrible. If you have an interest in I'm going to go back and watch the original Mummy now. I haven't seen it in years. Boris Karloff, really good stuff. But this, I don't know, for $5.99, I'll pop it in again. It's worth it for the special effects alone. They spent a lot of money on this movie. It's almost a $200 million film. Looks good on 4K, sounds good in 4K, and Dolby Atmos surround sound. So, interesting. I'm sorry I waited so long to see it. I'm sorry we don't get to see anything more. That they just walked away from this idea. $410 million. Not a massive hit, but not a disaster. Have you seen The Mummy 2017? What do you think? Maybe just more Mummy in the Mummy movie would have made it better. She was great. Scott Hamilton, I'm ROCKFILE. I wish I had more, but I was going to get into some spoilers at the very end there. Okay. So check out. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So at the very end of the film, what Ahmet was trying to do in the past, what she tried to do with Tom Cruise, was create a vessel for Set, the god of death, to come to Earth and be with her. And of course, Tom Cruise avoids that. He doesn't want to die because it's going to involve sticking a knife in his chest. Well, at the very end of the film, he's basically got a choice. Jenny, the Annabelle Wallis character, is dead. He kind of, that was going to happen. Looks like the mummy's going to win. What's he going to do? He's going to destroy the gem, but that's really going to just kind of really make things worse. So she basically tells him, if you want the power, whatever. And so he tricks her, and instead of giving her the knife, he shoves it into himself and basically creates a vessel for Set and takes on the power and ends the movie with him being a monster. I know nobody saw that coming from a Tom Cruise film. I think it's great that he decided to do that. And in the spinoff, he brings back to life his partner. Oh, we could talk about that a little bit. I thought his partner was okay. He tried too hard to be that Deadpool sidekick kind of thing. Just tried too hard. Tried too hard to make him that and have that chemistry between the two of them. But anyway, ending the movie with Tom Cruise being infected with the curse of the mummy. And he's going out, he's riding, and the dust storm is following them. And he throws the line out, about adventure. It's just kind of mixed signals. Is it supposed to be a horror movie at the end? Is he supposed to be a superhero at the end? They talk about he still has some human in him. Sometimes it takes a monster to fight a monster, and we'll need the monster from him, and they're going to follow him, and I don't know. There was some interesting ideas, and there was some great execution of some of these interesting ideas. Like I said, some of the horror elements, the zombie mummy henchman, fabulous. All that stuff was great. And Tom Cruise fighting them, putting his fist through their heads and stuff, that was really good. All of that was really well done. It's a shame that the rest of the movie didn't, it just doesn't all come together. At the end, you go, yeah, you just kind of go, interesting. And then it was an experiment that, now we won't ever know. If there are other things out there, scripts and stuff, or what they were going to do with this and the rest of the Dark Universe, that'd be interesting. Now they've retooled it, and like I said, we'll see what happens when they come up with things to tie in with the Invisible Man. Thanks for listening. Scott Hamilton, I'm ROCKFILE. My links are below. I'll try not to do these codas at the end with the spoilers, but this movie's been out for a while, so why not? And I probably won't come back to it anytime soon. You guys have a great day.